Hurricane Dorian now making its way up the Florida coast. Coming up, how Georgia and the Carolinas are bracing for what that storm is bringing.
The key word across Gallatin Valley, dry, and the fire danger goes right up with that.
Good morning to you and welcome to your Wednesday. It is 6:30 on the dot. I'm Missy O'Malley with Chet Lehman. Matt Elwell has our very warm, very hot forecast here for you in just a moment. Top story for you now, millions of people have been ordered to evacuate along the southeast coast with the very slow-moving Hurricane Dorian churns past Florida.
Meanwhile, people in the Bahamas are facing scenes of utter destruction in the storm's wake.
There are 7 confirmed fatalities in the island nation, but officials say that number is expected to grow. Nadia Romero is in Jacksonville, Florida with our latest on this deadly storm.
The St. Johns River is noticeably higher right now than it was yesterday. We are expecting a storm surge of 3 to 5 feet, and that's why the Jacksonville Fire Department is in an all-hands-on-deck storm surge staffing for day 2. A full week after storm preparations began, Hurricane Dorian is finally making its way up Florida's east coast. Although the eye of the storm is anticipated to remain over the Atlantic as it skirts past Florida, officials warn of the potential for dangerous winds, storm surge, and flooding.
Now is the time to shelter in place. Stay off of the beach. Don't drive around if you don't have to. This is not the time for sightseeing.
Dorian is expected to track along the coast over the next few days, moving north towards Georgia and the Carolinas, where authorities began establishing evacuation orders and emergency preparations.
The lane reversal of I-26 is still active. There's still time to get out if you want to. If not, though, please get boarded up and hunkered down and safe as you can be.
But as U.S. coastal cities batten down the hatches, residents in the Bahamas are now facing the grim after effects of the strongest hurricane to ever hit the island nation.
We were doing all right until the water kept coming up. My poor little wife got hypothermia, and she was standing on top of the kitchen cabinets until they disintegrated. And then I kept with her, and she just drowned on me.
Several areas in the Bahamas remain underwater. The Prime Minister says this is the greatest national crisis in the country's history. Just heartbreaking what we're hearing about Bahamas right now. Back here in Jacksonville, we're expecting thunderstorms all day. There are about 250,000 people who live in the evacuation zones. Some 500 of them are already in city shelters. In Jacksonville, Florida, I'm Nadia Romero reporting.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Just devastating.
90% of the homes have been damaged, just from what we're hearing in those places, Matt. 60% of the island's underwater.
And remember, just a few days ago it was Category 5 storm, now a Category 2, but it's just hovering right along the coast. We've got storm surge, strong winds, some showers and thunderstorms, obviously, and this is going to hug the coast. Could hit, if it's going to make landfall, it'll likely be in the Carolinas before it does, so we'll be watching that. For Montana, a little different issue, kind of polar opposite. Temperatures holding into the 50s this morning for most of the area, a couple of 60s sneaking back in there. It looks like our planner calling for very warm conditions, 90s on tap for the Bozeman area. Will be a little cooler in Butte, but still it will be windy, dry, and sunny. So those that combination is pretty dangerous. So red flag warnings out from noon today through 8 p.m. We're going to go over this and talk about some other issues we have, of course, coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you for that, Matt. Coming up on 6:34 here. And as Matt just mentioned a moment ago, those red flag warnings are showing up all across the state today.
MTN's Cody Boyer reports that as things get more dry, that danger becomes more real.
We're looking at red flag through tomorrow. Thursday's not going to be a whole lot better.
We've all felt the heat across the area lately. In the midst of summer and with fields drying out, this red flag warning has firefighters like Central Valley Fire Marshal Bruce Hennequin watching the horizon.
Around the state, we've had several fires. I think Billings and Great Falls have had a couple of significant fires, and then we just had a crew come back today from the area up around Laurel.
Other fires have risked damaging homes, including one last week. The fire marshal says that came from an unexpected source.
That was actually a burn barrel, and he was burning it in the morning and thought it was out. And sun rose and got nice and warm, and the winds picked up, and the embers in the bottom of the barrel made their way to the grass.
It really only takes a single spark that could set an entire dry field like this on fire. The Central Valley Fire Marshal does say that unseen dangers like having your chains dangling from the tow on the back of your truck to one you might not think about, like the sun's heat overhead, could contribute to that.
Careful if you do go off-road for any reason. Park in the tall grass, catalytic converters can ignite the grass, and you may return to your vehicle to find out it's now a burning, heaping mass of metal and rubber.
Flames as large as these forest fires can come from the smallest of sources, something Hennequin hopes a red flag warning or two will help send an important message.
Each individual is responsible. When you get your burn permit, you're asked who your insurance carrier is, and there's a reason for that.
In Gallatin County, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Fire Marshal also says several burn bans have already gone into place across Gallatin County, including one in Highlight. All that information can be found on our website.
And new this morning, after scorching more than 4,000 acres in dangerous terrain, the Shoshone National Forest, a Type 2 incident management team, is posed to take over control for the FishHawk Fire later this week.
That information told to more than 100 people at a public meeting last night in Cody, Wyoming. Fire's cause still unknown. Fire officials were able to do a flyover yesterday with a plane outfitted with thermal imaging cameras to pin down the fire's size, and another slated for later tonight so that crews can have updated numbers by morning. Motorists traveling the North Fork Highway out of Cody headed to Yellowstone should watch out for smoke on the road and traffic from firefighting equipment.
In other news here on your Wednesday morning, Butte police say a man is dead after falling from a second-floor balcony over the weekend.
The incident happened at the man's residence on Saturday in the 700 block of West Park Street. Friends of the victim found his body on the ground outside the apartment complex a little after 4 o'clock that afternoon. Police have not released the identity of that victim.
And when it comes to access to high-speed internet and cell phone service in rural Montana, almost everyone agrees it's not what it should be.
But then comes the next question. Where exactly is it lacking, and how do you fill those gaps? TN's Mike Dennison has more in part 1 of a 3-part series.
In downtown Hamilton, the unofficial capital of the fast-growing Bitterroot Valley in southwest Montana, high-speed internet is readily available for businesses and most homeowners. But in this neighborhood a few miles off the valley's main highway, you can't get it.
It's not like we live way up in the mountain, you know, where they can't get to our house. We live off of a very busy highway, you know, and I think we should be able to have access to the internet.
Kim Parish is like tens or even hundreds of thousands of Montanans who live relatively close to a major city, less than 20 miles south of Missoula, but no company offers them a high-speed fiber internet connection.
The problem is in the areas that are served by the national carriers. Those companies, they will well serve the areas that are dense, highly concentrated, downtown Helena, downtown Great Falls. And so it's generally that they serve the donut hole, but it's the donut that doesn't get served.
Gibson is the CEO for Three Rivers Communications, a rural telecom headquartered in Fairfield that serves areas from Browning to Big Sky. It's installing fiber optic cable to serve all of its 15,000 rural customers, including some in very remote locales. Other rural telecoms in Montana are doing the same, financed largely by federal universal service funds and rural development loans. Yet, if you're living off the beaten path and you're not in the rural telecom service area, you might be out of luck. Ron Marshall owns vaping shops in Hamilton, Belgrade, and Bozeman and has internet at his shop locations. But when he goes home a few miles outside of Corvallis, he has no high-speed internet to check on his business.
I can fire up my computer, turn on my hotspot, let it load. I'll just go in the kitchen and make dinner and eat. I'll come back and maybe, just maybe, one of the pages is actually loaded.
Marshall says it's an economic issue as well for rural and suburban areas.
If you don't have access to the internet, basic internet, let alone high-speed internet, how do you expect jobs to stay in the valley or people to come in and create businesses that will create those jobs? The businesses are going to go to places where they have accessibility to all of this.
A spokesman for Spectrum, which provides high-speed cable internet in many Montana cities and towns, says it's always looking to expand its network in Montana, but must consider the overall economic feasibility on any expansion. The rural telecoms in Montana are protective of their federal funding and say it's not always enough to do what they want. But they acknowledge that public funding is likely the answer to reach areas that they can't and won't serve.
And I don't think there's any solution to that other than you're going to have to throw money at the large carriers to encourage them or require them to serve those outlying areas.
So until someone can figure out where that money will come from, the search for high-speed broadband in these underserved areas for many people will continue. In the Bitterroot Valley, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Tomorrow, Mike focuses on cell phone coverage in rural Montana.
It
or
is
the lack thereof.
quite the issue.
Yes, it is.
No doubt about it. And busy summer road construction and the start of school has the city of Bozeman reminding you to slow down, slow down, slow down, as Chet would always say, and drive with caution in those residential areas, especially near those school zones.
Yeah, the city of Bozeman teamed up with the city of Seattle to distribute free yard signs for residents who hope to encourage safety from their own front yard.
The yard signs are friendly traffic calming reminders to have drivers slow down. The city has been looking for ways to promote safe and cautious driving in neighborhoods and hopes those fun signs will be eye-catching enough while delivering that message.
Slow down.
Slow down.
Slow down.
Slow down.
Super simple.
There are a couple of those cute signs on Babcock because it is a road that is easy to just pick up your speed, but there's people parked on both sides. 25 is plenty. That's my favorite sign. 25 is plenty.
That's a good call.
We do have to take a quick break. Stay with us in a moment.